individualization is good, per area, but it would be nice if there was like a central repository or a hub where people could get information.
I think I would love that, especially more informal things, because I think everyone thinks that for a space to be autistic friendly, that it needs to be created for autistic people, like for our disability and not for us. Does that make sense?
Welcome to Herding Cats and other stories from the genesis of the neurodiversity movement.
Let's herd some cats together with hosts Kassiane, Morenike, Renee, and Oswin.
Goodness, how much of that quackery stuff are we going to start seeing a resurgence of?
Well, we got RFK
All of it.
Jr. and people were celebrating when he came aboard, but like it was just the way the man was just lying so effortlessly during when they were inquiring about that stuff. I was like, this is just shameful. Like, seriously, dude?
Do y'all remember if he was on the committee that was doing the autism hearing? Like, I guess this would have been 2012.
Oh, like Defeat Autism Now, one of those stupid.
No. Like literally congressional committee.
Oh, I don't know. That's a good
And
question.
we had, and Ari ended up coming to speak, but I'm pretty sure that RFK Jr. was on that committee.
I mean, all of this stuff, like when literally right now in Texas, there's an outbreak of measles. You know what I mean? Like when I'm thinking about the stuff that was going on with people being concerned about vaccinations and autism and all these types of things, and I just find it's an odd and eerie coincidence with RFK and measles and all of this type of stuff, and him looking into antidepressants,
like
so forth.
We had to do a lot of talking and pushing because that autism hearing, they didn't have any autistic people there. They weren't going to have any autistic people there. And we found out about it before it actually happened. So it's when we made the orange and blue Nothing About Us Without Us t-shirts. And we sat in the audience and Ari was able to go and speak on the committee.
Was that the one where they debated whether or not we feel pain, or was
I honestly do not remember because I was keeping up with like our cohort of people and I wasn't actually listening.
Okay, that's valid. And I'm certain there's been more than one where they had that. Is that the 2012?
Yeah, I think it's 2012. It might have been 2013, but I'm pretty sure 2012.
I think I found it. I am not seeing RFK on here. However, I do remember Eleanor Holmes Norton. She is on here, and I remember her explicitly asking what happens to the adults because I wrote her a note.
What? That's awesome. So I'm so glad that people are responsive. Like, this is when it was still called Combating Autism Act, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even that name is just so, so that's progress. You know what I mean? That we have cares. I mean, I feel like the little things we have to embrace because, like, even now, like the push that people are frustrated about, us trying to move to more respectful, non-stigmatizing language that's still, precise and scientifically accurate, but people are pushing against it now, but there wouldn't have, and like not wanting to do it, but the dialogue exists where it was almost non-existent outside of autistic people bringing it up before. Like you opened a journal and everything that you read about yourself made you just want to jump off of a skyscraper because you were just like the scum of the earth. And now there are some efforts to change that. We do have like Autism in Adulthood and such a high impact factor and other journals trying to, I guess, get not just in academia, but just the general public to have a greater understanding of neurodiversity. And so I think we're making baby steps, but there's just so many big things wrong that it's hard to celebrate those wins. But we have to.
I think right now it's hard to celebrate anything, but I think I think there's ways to get back to feeling that way. And also, if I'm very honest, I do see people trying to rally around because we know that this is going to be hard. And there's a lot of people that aren't, obviously, but we have so much more in numbers now than we had the first time around.
I'm going to make a joke.
Oh, go for it.
Well, it's because we've all had more vaccines than just four of us.
I'm glad that we exist. And I've been thinking about it a lot in terms of how more people that I suspect are having harder and harder time surviving, that are discovering they're autistic. The people our age that are discovering they are autistic, you know, that they may have never felt this level of disability before because they had a lot more support than a lot of people get nowadays. But because they're coming into the movement right now with this experience, that as long as we explain where we got to the things that we've gotten to, so that we can make sure that we're not erasing all of the effort we all put into it. Not only that, but erasing those of us that definitely are disabled by like government standards. That we don't want to push our stuff out, because our stuff is what's going to help support them far better than the individualist take that tends to want to be happening right now. But because there's enough of us that are still active and still talking it through, and there is more research, we've got so much better research. Like we have a neurodiversity journal now. There's a neurodiversity journal.
That's something that no one could have foreseen, many years ago.
Like, that's amazing. We've got all of, as much as I know, I have problems with neurodiversity affirming therapy. And now I had an exchange with Joel on Blue Sky about it. And he's like, yeah, I now wish I would have said neurodivergent affirming therapy. So it would fall in line with like the queer, whatchamacallit, affirming therapy, where it's about recognizing the trauma that we endure and like trying to work from that trauma-based perspective. That's where it initially came from. It's been distorted, but we have, like, in the past 6 months, there's been so much research that's come out that is really, really good. I'm like, oh wow, I don't have to do this whole section of my paper now because somebody else did that section. And so I do feel like we have a lot of things to be hopeful for. And I don't see any of us backing down from that in light of the politics. Because if I'm real, the politics have always been kind of crap for us.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there's more? I feel like our youth have more of a sense of community and less sense of isolation than before. Not that it's like pie in the sky, but I think that, so the online community thing was more for most as young adults and so forth. And now I feel like our youth, well, I don't know. I guess it depends on do they have digital access and what's going on in their living environment at home? I guess maybe the potential for it, perhaps.
I think it depends on the youth. And then there's the thing also where, like, okay, so for us, all my friends live in my computer. It was weird. And now, because of various factors, every young person's friends all live in their computer. And I know that's not quite what you asked, but I do think that the way that autistic people tend to socialize best is far more mainstream, like a true mainstream, like, every kid. I know a lot of kids, and all of them, most of their friends live in their pockets.
Yeah. Now, I also know that that's causing a lot more loneliness.
Mm.
And I know that we're also seeing a rise in ADHD in kids in early and elementary school. And now that's pandemic related, obviously, but and like development, not being able to be around humans other than your parents was going to have this.
There's a lot going on there.
Like that. Are these people, or are these kids going to continue to retain the ADHD label as they get older? Who knows? But right now it makes sense developmentally for what happened to them. And so like all of these things are going into a place where it seems like we might need to be building local communities again. Because for a while there, the autistic community was also based in person. At least the rights movement was, with
Yes.
all of the chapters. And once they stopped doing chapters and become affiliates, I have a much harder time finding resources like that for people. And so I feel like the in-person of it still is going to be important, even though the norm is online. But like, we know that that's not leading to great things for a lot of people. And there's a lot of, especially boys, that I really, really worry about because their experiences online are very different.
Oh, you mean the autistic to master
Yeah.
pipeline?
So I feel like in that way.
Like I said, we're stuck here.
So I wonder how, I think about like, so, we are the generation that still played outside, right? You know what I mean? Whether you lived in a house, apartment, trailer, whatever, you still played outside. You still kind of got some of that movement out. So if you were autistic and your thing was picking up every clover that you saw or collecting pebbles, or if it was kicking a ball, or if it was just sitting there reading your book or enjoying the sun, like you kind of like, so I feel like I wonder like this, like you all mentioned, only being around one's parents, only having the digital entertainment, all of that element. I wonder how harmful that is for us in terms of just the, I don't know, just our well-roundedness. You know what I mean? Because it's like we don't have really an outlet. Everything is, I feel everything feels a little too contained, I think. And I feel like we need that variety, as humans, but particularly, our community.
I admit I worry a lot about some of the kids I know of all neurologies because of things, but that might be going down a different rabbit hole.
Like not having to be good at anything, but just doing it for fun because you enjoy it, right? Not an organized sport, not soccer practice, and
I
being a
really
therapy, and
feel
speech
like
therapy,
all
just
kids need
doing
that.
whatever.
I really
Yeah,
feel
just
like,
big body play, you know.
like,
Too.
it's one of the things that worries me with Olivia is that, the only time I can, away from school, get her around other kids is through something that's an activity based. So like she does art things at this place that, so paint by, that they do it for adults, but they also have kids nights. And so that's what she ends up doing to go socialize. Or I take her to, if I have something I need to get done, then she gets to go to drop off daycare and like play with kids there. And it's relatively unstructured, but there's just not a whole lot of unstructured out there. And I think that's not great for anyone.
It is not.
Go for it.
Oh, it's like shown kids need a certain amount of unstructured child-led play in a day, and almost no kids are getting it because they're all overscheduled and inside. And like, I'm not going to say over-supervised, but actually, I am going to say over-supervised. It's a developmental thing that kids actually do need and are not getting, and it's for bad reasons. And I'm sad about it.
And I want to make it clear that we're all like gamers and geeks here. So like we also see the benefit of
Totally.
gaming together.
Yeah.
I do. I love it. So actually, I feel like for kids who can't play pretend, setting up a D&D game so that there's rules, so that you have a structure within to play pretend counts. Just to be clear, or making it a little LARP so that there's rules that counts. I will die on that hill.
Both of the older two do role playing on Discord. Like, so that's where their community is too, is online. I have had to do a lot of work to keep them out of pipelines, but I've been successful though, so there's that. Got a little hairy there for the oldest for a little bit, but anyways, but like those are all great things too, and I just wish there was and like we even have luxury here in the Dallas area that there are physical places that they can go and do that. I need them to be able to do that, get to that place on their own, which is why they're not going right now. But because they're adults and I can't always drop them off where they want to go. But, and those spaces end up being fairly autistic heavy too. But I know that not all areas have that.
And that's something we didn't used to have either. You could, like before, I think I could count on one hand and still wiggle some fingers as to what is like sort of like an autistic type friendly space. And I think that although again, every area is different depending on the geographic location a person's in or transportation, but I think the existence of such spaces, we're seeing more and more of that. And I feel like that's in response to a lot of the community's priorities and efforts and crying out for that, for the creation of such things through the years.
I agree. I don't know if y'all have very many of the places that you can go and sit and play board games or sit and do D&D campaigns. And
I live in Portland, Oregon. Yes.
like, yes. Sorry, you're right. Portland definitely would. But there's so many of those in this area. And I always wonder, like, do people know that those exist? Are people aware that there are spaces that they can go to that they can be around people and there's set like game times and whatnot?
So that is something I miss about the past. I feel like there's so much information now. It's like a fire hose, like, but it's hard to know. But a fire hose is not precise at all. You don't know what it's going to hit, So whereas before, it felt like there were more streamlined forms of communication. People learned very early about a movement or an issue or someone needed support. I remember, Kassiane, when you were crowdfunding for Jim's cat, you know what I mean? And, stuff like that. Like people could get things to one another, resources to each other, like we talked about, like, previously with Tone It Down Taupe and the, sharing technology with people in need. Now, I don't think everything is very fragmented, and I feel like individualization is good, per area, but it would be nice if there was like a central repository or a hub where people could get information.
I think I would love that, especially more informal things, because I think everyone thinks that for a space to be autistic friendly, that it needs to be created for autistic people, like for our disability and not for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they overthink it and make it too complicated,
Like instead of
and
realizing that we just
accommodations
need
are
something.
good, but we need something. Sometimes it's just good to just have something, and you can improve it as you go.
I think it's a little bit more than that too. It's that a lot of the geek spaces have always been dominated by autistic people, like consistently. Now, there's some bad things that come with that too. I know, but like,
I'd say it's similar to like the cosplay spaces too. I think are pretty neurodivergent heavy, as well. But I guess they're not necessarily static spaces. You know what I mean? Because they are, variable in location.
right. So, but like more of that so people can be like, oh, this is what, especially for parents when like, I don't know how my kids are going to find friends when they're adults. It's like, they'll find their people. There are places that they can go and their people will be there. Like they just exist. We exist offline. Like we do exist offline.
Well, like my dojo is in things that you don't think of when you think of autism, martial arts, right? Unless you do, which, there's like 5 people who might make that connection. Very neurodivergent, both adult and youth program. Yeah, that's where a lot of my people are. And it's not like it says, this is autistic space on the webpage. It's just, it is a very welcoming environment. And of course, like y'all are saying, all these nerd space things, but some of us are also
Yes,
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
It's fun to fall down, okay? It feels nice.
It's funny because it's like I think about like one of the things that like the things that when I was talking about like Treat being too far away from it, because it's like I like sun, I like trees, like I think those things are nice, but I don't want to be in a vehicle for like 2 hours from the airport, you know what I mean, to have to get to wherever I'm going. And then, you know what I mean, like to like that, the getting, so I guess it'd be nice if we could have these spaces, like you said, like if it's, you know, like dojos or outdoor spaces, so where you don't have, where they're not so remote, like, okay, I can get that, I can have access to these things, like to movement or to, you know, park or to whatever, a gym, without it being far away because, oh, this is where we put the disability stuff. The accessible park is way across town, you know, like if they could just be in, you know, parts of the general community, you know, for people, and not like, oh, it's got to be that community center that's designed to be accessible, but the rest of them are not.
Yeah.
Some universal design.
I would love some universal design.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would be really easy too. I feel like it would be a lot easier than people make it out to be. Sure, retrofitting is expensive, but if you just do it right the first time, it's about the same expense.
Yep.
It'd be so much easier too.
It really would.
So we never got to the other topic.
I forgot what the other topic was.
Too.
Being the forgotten org.
Oh.
Okay, that's funny that's the one.
I know. That's so weird.
Thank you everyone for listening to us wander and be really, really terrible feeling wise today, but we really appreciate y'all listening, and like, share, subscribe, yada yada.
I feel like I think we were peak us.
I think so.
Yeah.
We're very real.
Mm-hmm. So just chill till the next episode. That's good. No, but seriously, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to Herding Cats. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. It really helps us grow our community with your help.